Rich is going to be podcasting through the medium of interpretive dance. So, Rich, how have the player instructions gone? Oh, very well indeed. Hello there, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Football Manager Therapy. I am your host, Rich Owens, and joining me this morning, it's my close personal friend from the internet and reality. It's the United City FM. Kev, morning, Kev. How are you, buddy?
But which reality is this? And who are we? And where are we? And what are we? I mean, those are the interesting questions of the morning.
Absolutely, yes, they are.
It's a good start to a podcast, isn't it? Hello, everybody. I'm doing all right. Thanks, Rich. This is going to be an interesting one, isn't it? By the sounds of it already. I have a very annoying fly in this room this morning. I was hoping that it would add some interesting conversations and tidbits about Football Manager, but you should hear what it's been saying about registers. So we're going to try and keep it away if we can. But yeah, you know, it is what it is.
Which is fair enough. This week's podcast, if you were wondering, is going to be all about existential crises, which apparently Kev has had 2 minutes into the record. And never trust the flies. Never trust.
No, absolutely. How about yourself, Rich? Any flying creatures around you that are talking about liberos or anything?
No, I've had a moth in last night that was trying to talk about halfbacks, but that's been about it recently.
I don't mind a halfback. Got to get the right role player for it, but it can work.
I like a halfback. I'm using a halfback at the moment, and we'll talk about this more later. But yeah, I'm all half backed up. I've got so many weird roles in my current system. It makes me feel like I really know what I'm doing.
That's amazing.
So good fun.
It's always good when that happens.
Yeah, isn't it though? Isn't it when just by accident you're like, oh, look at me. I'm a big man, king of the castle, king of the tactics castle, because I'm using a libero. And you're like, yes, I've done it. I've peaked.
And then you just pray whilst you're on your live stream that nobody comes in and says, Rich, why are you using a libero?
Yeah. Oh gosh, no, don't. So this is what it is, and I will take no further questions on it. And that's okay. That's an okay thing to have.
Sounded fancy, didn't it? It's the general response, you know.
It sounded exotic, is what it sounded like. Not enough people use these. Not enough people understand what they are. Me being one of them. Speaking of not understanding things, Kev.
That's just life in general. Come on.
Yeah. Here's a segue for you.
You can do this.
Look, we both found ourselves in a bit of a situation on Thursday.
Oh, what a situation.
And speaking of not understanding, we found ourselves in a situation. I spent the vast majority of my evening on Thursday going, what am I doing here? What's going on? Because, Kev, we were very, very fortunate on Thursday evening to get a little invite to play a little bit of Football Manager in a network save, but not our usual network save.
No, indeed. It wasn't, was it?
No, it was. We spent Thursday evening. If you don't know, audience, where were you on Thursday?
Sure. Where were you?
Where were you? Literally, where were you? Probably Zealand's chat would be my best guess.
I would imagine so. Most people were. It
most
feels like
people were. It's the right place to be. So Kev and I and 21 other quite wonderful Football Manager content creators were invited.
Wasn't it 22 others?
Well, 21
including
including our gracious host. I wasn't.
Of course, host.
Yeah. See, because maths and we were invited. We were invited through a variety of people and ways to play some Football Manager with a guy from America called Zealand, who on Thursday morning or Wednesday night had the wonderful idea to do a 24-person network save. International management, managing all the teams in the Euros. So that was fun. As it turns out, if the question is how easy is it to get 24 people involved in a network game at very short notice, surprisingly easy when it's being hosted by Zealand. Weirdly enough,
that is true.
Yeah. So
I think it was aided by the fact that it was. Shall we do this? Yes. Good. Go live. You know, if it had been, shall we do this in 3 weeks and try and get everybody together and make it polished and interesting and, you know, structured, and half the people wouldn't have been there probably.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. Yeah, so it was very, very late that we kind of got the I got a message from Tony. Here's the exciting look behind the curtain. I got a message from Tony quite late on Wednesday evening saying, "Hey, tomorrow, are you free? And if you are, would you like to do a Euros thing with Zealand and probably Lelujo as well?" Weirdly enough, yes, I was available. What are the chances? So, yeah, I think there might be some space in my diary to do that. That sounds like the kind of thing that I might be available to do. And then, bless him, as is mine and Tony's way, he was like, "Cool, I'll message you in a bit." And then he didn't message me. I was like, "Well, that's not
Did he not?
Didn't. What are the chances? Love you, Tony." He was like, "Yeah, I messaged you in a bit." And I was like, "Oh, all right, yeah, sounds good, sounds good." And then I went to bed on Wednesday night. I was like, "He's not messaged." Admittedly, there probably are better people that are available for this. I was like, "That's fine."
Never.
Oh, weirdly enough, I think a lot of people were available because a lot of people were there. But then Thursday morning, I woke up. He's like, "Oh, here's a Discord invite," and then suddenly you're in a chat with all these wonderful creators like Zealand and Lelujo and Tom and Second Yellow Card, and you're like, "Oh yeah, we're just going to all play some Football Manager together tonight."
Yep,
and that is exactly what we did.
It is exactly what we did. To varying levels of success, of course, but we definitely did do it.
We definitely played some Football Manager, didn't we? So the format was, there were 24 of us. Zealand put some countries on a wheel on his stream, and he spanned the wheel in alphabetical order based on our names. Now, I feel like I did myself a disservice here, Kev, with this one, as did we both, because our names on Discord are ever so slightly different to our names on our other social medias. So if you're on the FMT Discord, you'll know on the Discord, I've got my name down as FMT Rich, not Rich Owens FM, which means that I went significantly earlier in the process. And a lot of the stinky teams seemed to go earlier in the competition. So we all went on a big wheel and we drew some teams. I got Turkey, which I would say, based on my experience of getting teams for online games from a wheel, I think that there's Turkey and Leicester about the same, really. Fair to middling is probably the best way to describe them. Definitely not the worst team I could have got, definitely not the best team I could have got, but somewhere in the middle. So I was ambivalent towards Turkey, I think is the best way to put it, Kev. It was strange because I was in Zealand's chat and a lot of his chat were talking about Turkey, like, "Oh, they could be really fun to manage." It's like, could they? Maybe they could.
Maybe they could.
What? And I was like, "Oh, maybe they couldn't," as it turns out. So I picked up Turkey. What about you, Kev? Where did you end up managing?
So again, as you say, like yourself, my name in the Discord is slightly different. So most places it's just the United City FM, but on Discord it's Kev United City, just so you know, because informal, innit? Lovely place to be. So I went significantly higher up in the list in terms of earlier in the list again as well. Now, there's two things that I'd like to say about where I ended up and what I got. So ultimately, I got the Czech Republic, Czechia. Which again is one of those middling type countries at the moment. I feel like it's a slightly aging squad here and there, maybe lacks one or two absolute superstars. I mean, Patrick Schick's around, Cerny's around on the wings, but other than that, it felt a little bereft of somebody to really sort of nail your colours to the mast on, particularly. But the other thing is immediately after me came Lelujo, the other Kev. And unfortunately, Rich, in the chaos of hosting everything and spinning the wheel and just being Zealand and doing Zealand things, he got it slightly wrong. And he meant to give me France. He meant to, but he got the wrong Kev. He got the wrong Kev. And so he gave me Czech Republic, and then immediately afterwards, got the wrong Kev and gave France to Lelouch. I mean, obviously, he was never going to want to do that, was it? It was all
No, of course not.
planned, and he
Of
just
course
got it
not.
wrong, bless him, in the moment. So, you know, I don't
We've all
hold a
been there.
grudge, Zealand. It's fine. It's all right. You know, the hours of negotiations that we had behind the scenes to make sure that this all happened and worked in the way that it was supposed to, that's fine. It's all right. There's no conspiracies, anything, you know, nobody can come back at us. It's fine. But yeah, I ended up with the Czech Republic, and they were pretty good. It was all right. They, you know, they had 1 or 2 good players. I could set up in a system that I roughly wanted to, because Patrick Schick is enough of a presence up top to use him as a big target blokey, sort of, with a couple of players around him. Enough. Wasn't totally ideal. I'd have loved Serbia. Give me Vlahovic and what's his face from previously from Fulham that I can't remember all of a sudden. Mitrovic. There you go.
Mitrovic. There you go. Yeah,
Brain
Mitrovic.
just went.
Yeah,
Give me Mitrovic and Vlahovic up top, and I'd have been having a great time. But yeah, it was a really interesting start. I think, you know, it was a little bit chaotic because you get 24 people in a voice call and trying to get them into the right spots, and, you know, download the bits that take away the fake German names in the game and all sorts of other bits and pieces was a little bit frantic. But we got there, we all pressed live, we all got a team, and it was really, really good fun. It was just a really fun evening. We'll talk about you know, the actual matches that we played in a second, etc. But generally speaking, it was really cool. And I think it really benefited from the fact that it was, do you want to do this? Yes. Good. Let's do it now.
Yeah.
I think that really,
it's happening now. Say yes, make a decision, make a choice now, commit. 3, 2, 1, say yes. Say yes in 3, 2, 1. Commit. Yes.
Done.
Say yes. 3, 2. Yes. You're going to play. Okay, you're in. And yeah, that helped enormously, I think. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I think the opening kind of 10 minutes of the stream, or everybody streams, there was a slight element of, you know, how do you put this politely? Herding cats, I think, was the was the most efficient way of describing it. But we all got there in the end. I think that there was a little bit of uncertainty over the squads because you know, when it was being planned, some people were saying, well, surely we should just have the real squads and we just go from there. So, but no, I want to be able to pick my squad. And then, yeah, but some people are going to take an hour to pick a squad. Like, no, they won't. Zealand has specifically said 10 minutes. Yeah, it took Zealand a little bit longer, but you know, which was fine because he's he can do what he wants.
Pretty much.
We love the man. In terms of my squad, I used a system because it's, with the exception of probably about half an hour in that charity stream from a couple of weeks ago, where I just somehow picked up the England job in What's the Story. My experience of international management on recent FMs is none, literally zero. So I just pressed auto select when it came to my team, and I looked at who was in there, and I went, yeah, that probably makes sense, because again, my knowledge of Turkish football is that there are 4 or 5 players I know from that Turkey team, having either previously managed them or thought to myself, they're very, very good. You know, you've got the likes of obviously like Canloglu, who is wonderful. Got a lot of time for him. You've got Demiral, the centre back as well, who's at Juve, who I've picked up in drafts before, who's very aggressive but also quite good. You've got one of the fullbacks who used to be at Lille when I was, you know, very heavily invested in them. Obviously, there's a certain goalkeeper as well, the starting Turkish goalkeeper, who I might have some experiences with, who definitely, you know, didn't bring our network game form to that competition. That's all I'll say.
No, very true.
A tough one. But as for the rest of that Turkish team, I was like, you know what? The game knows better than me who exists and who doesn't exist. So auto selected, and I was fine with it.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I did something a bit similar. I mean, you know, I will absolutely hold my hand up and say, out of the 24 teams that we could have been given, there were probably, I don't know, 8 of them that I don't really know too much about in terms of their actual international squad makeup and how it all works. And Czech Republic would have been one of those. A couple of years ago, maybe I would have been a bit more connected to them, but it feels like maybe they've dropped off a little bit from where they were a few years ago. And I just don't have that kind of knowledge on them particularly. So I did a similar thing when we go in and you've got 30 players and you've got to take it down to 26 or whatever, you've got to take a few out. I had no idea where to start. I didn't know whether I was taking out one of their superstars. Actually, I was going through various ways in which I could cull the squad a bit, and we did. It was fine. I got there. Interestingly, halfway through the evening, somebody came into my chat who is from Czechia. Yeah, and they came in and they basically said, "Oh, I spotted that you were the Czech manager. I've come to support you. I'm from there, etc." Oh, that's an interesting lineup. Okay. And I thought it could well be. I mean, that's fine. But here's the interesting thing, you see. So mostly it was from a squad that the game had already selected, barring taking a couple of people out. Secondly, I then put my best 11 in. And then moved, I think, 2 people out of that because I could see I thought I had a better option in and around the squad that I wanted to play my way of playing. So I put those 2 in, and that's all I did. Yet somebody came in and went, "Ooh, that's an interesting team selection." Okay, fine, good. I wouldn't have known, but it was, it was interesting, that one.
Because as we all know from streaming Football Manager, if somebody comes in, especially if it's a newer person, I'm like, "Oh, that's interesting." That's a very polite way of saying, "Oh, you've done that wrong."
Yeah, what are you doing?
What have
Why
you
are you
done?
playing them there?
That's incorrect. Yeah, it was. I was very, very similar. You know, I reckon there was, I was like, right, I know that 3 or 4 players from this Turkish side that I definitely have to get into the starting 11, and then the rest of it probably picks itself in a roundabout kind of way, which is exactly what happened with me. I set up because I was like, you know what, I don't know enough about this team. I don't want to be that out there in terms of the systems I'm playing. I just want to put something nice and sensible that I know works, and we'll give it a go. So I used one of kind of the slight variations, like the 4-2-3-1 that I'd used previously in, I think, What's the Story? I think it had come up with a team for a little while. I was like, we'll set that up because it suits the players that I know. This formation of this system suits their abilities and it suits what they do. So we'll set it up like that, and then we'll kind of muddle our way through the rest of it. My knowledge of the Euros groups, Kev, going into that game was limited. Considering all I've done this week is get really, really heavily invested in a sweepstake that we've got going on at work. And also some fancy football, which I'm back on for the first time in about 18 months. And I feel ashamed of myself because I've been clean for 18 months of anything fancy football related. Now there's a Euros one. We've got the FMT one up. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? I'll click the button that says create a league just so I can. But the amount of time I've spent looking at we've got a chart in our office now, and I've been put in charge of the chart.
Okay.
You'd think that some of that information would have gone in. None of it.
No.
Absolutely none of it. So, the teams are being drawn, and then everyone gets a team, and then I'm like, oh, right, what are the groups looking like? Who's in whose group? And you'll never guess who bumped into each other, Kev. You'll never guess.
It
was playing me and you, wasn't it?
Hey!
It was me and you. Of course it was me and you. It couldn't have gone much better in that respect.
Yep.
I mean, the only thing that would have made it nicer is that obviously our boy Callum, happy birthday, Callum. Happy birthday, Callum.
Indeed, that too.
Wonderful day, sunshine kid. Callum took part in the competition. He drew Spain.
He did. Look at him being all Spanish.
I know, disgusting, isn't it? Vamos. But yeah, he drew Spain, so he avoided our group. But Kev and I, we got to spend some time together, and
we did.
Also with podcast Mount Rushmore.
Definitely
Hall of Famer, second yellow card. Like on it, what a boy. What a man. And also, so we spent a bit of time together, and then our friend of the people, friend of the internet, Gub32, good old Gavin Brush,
indeed,
with his Portuguese team. So we had a lovely time. We spent a lovely group of people spent a bit of time with. which I was like, this is, and that's my favorite thing about a network save. It's not the football manager, it's the spending time with people, and that's that's the thing I used to really love about drafting as well. Spending time with people. If you were drafting with somebody who wanted to hop into the voice calls and have a chat with you, that is exponentially better and more important to me than the results of the actual game itself.
100%. Yep.
And what a group of people to spend a bit of time with and have those conversations with as well.
Absolutely.
I played Matt in my first game because Matt drew the mighty Georgia.
He did. Bless him.
Bless him. He was. You could tell he was absolutely delighted about that. He was absolutely delighted because again, they've got two very, very good players, two borderline world-class players in that Georgian team.
Indeed, they have.
In Kvaradona and Mamradashvili, the big goalkeeper. And then they also have some other people that play football and are from Georgia. Yeah, that's it. Generally, I think that is, apologies to any of our Georgian fans, but I think that is a comparatively fair assessment of the national team setup for Georgia. Now, I played him the first fixture, and FM was FM. I beat him 3-0 in a game that definitely was not a 3-0. I feel like it was a very flattering scoreline for me. Defensively, his team were all over the place, and I don't think that was through any fault of his own, because if you know Matt knows Football Manager, and he's not going to set up something lackadaisical, is he? He's going to be very very on the ball when it comes to how he's setting up his team. And so a flattering 3-0 win in my first game, which means by default you played Gav in your first. How did Gav's Portugal treat you?
Well, yeah. So here's the thing about playing Gav and about playing Portugal, right? Firstly, Gavin himself is self-professed, self-proclaimed sort of set-piece corner specialist, basically. And it's no lie, because every time he gets anything in and around there, you have to hold your breath and pray, basically, because the likely outcome is that he'll get a goal from it. Now, I think I've got some decent enough set pieces that in my saves get a few goals here and there. It's what he bases his entire team and play style around, ultimately. And it worked out very well. And here's the other thing about playing Gav, but then having him manage Portugal, is if you stop Ronaldo, then he's got Bernardo Silva. And if you stop Bernardo Silva, he's got Bruno Fernandes. And if you stop Bruno Fernandes, he's got half a dozen other players that step up and go, remember me, I'm good too. And you go, because there's no way of coping with any of it at all. And he beat me comfortably. I think it was like 4-1 or something. I can't even remember how many he got, but it was somewhere around there. And we just didn't compete particularly well. I think we did okay, but we just weren't getting any key moments to actually do anything ourselves, really. After it, I did make a couple of slight switches and tweaks in what I was doing to set up. Which I think aided me moving forward a little bit. But yeah, that first game was tough. And don't play Gav if you don't know how to defend set pieces.
Just make sure everyone's massive. That's all you need to do. Just Land of the Giants. That's what you need to stand a chance against Gav set pieces, because he is very, very good at them. I think ours was an interesting enough group anyway, Kev, because I think it was one of the groups where, if you look at on paper who you think should be doing well, Portugal, Turkey, Czech Republic, Georgia. Portugal on paper are the favourites far and away. Georgia, you would expect to finish bottom of the group. Second and third, I think it was either of us feasibly could have finished there. I think playing Matt first didn't actually help me enormously, because a false sense of security, I think, is kind of what crept in. I think the 3-0 scoreline was very flattering. I scored the first goal I scored was lovely. Just a little chip from about 25 yards, and I thought it looked in the replay like the ball went over the crossbar and then through the top of the net and dropped into the goal, which clearly it didn't. Camera angles, I suppose, let me down. But that kind of didn't help me because I'd looked at it afterwards. I was like, oh, you know what? This is all right. I think we're going to be okay. I think we're going to be fine. So I didn't change anything. I was like, I've got a good 11. Everyone seemed to do what the 4 or 5 key players that I knew were good did what I wanted them to do during that game, which is always a bonus. The other players did their roles, were fine, did their roles comparatively well, so not a huge amount to worry about there. So that's really, really good. I probably don't need to worry about too much here. I probably don't need to change too much here.
Sure.
And then I played you in the second game, Kev. And the opening 20 minutes to that game terrify me. Looking back at it now, they frighten me because, you know, at the time of recording, the Italy-Albania game was last night, and Albania now hold the Euros record for fastest goal in a final.
Indeed.
The tempo to which your team started that game with, Kev, was genuinely terrifying.
Yep. Me too. I don't know what happened.
I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready.
So I made a couple of changes. Oh, one thing I will tell you, actually, before I forget about the previous match against Gavin Brash, is I saw the most stupid goal in FM that I've seen in a very long time. It was amazing. So there was a bit of a scuffle in the penalty box. I think it was off probably another set piece. It got looped around a bit. And then there was a looping header, I think, from Ronaldo from about maybe 10 yards of inside, you know, in and around the 18-yard box. So inside about 10 yards away from goal. And it literally looped up in the air over the top of all of the defenders. And my goalkeeper went, I'll catch that. Did so. And then stepped back into his own net under no pressure whatsoever and gave a goal away. And myself and Gav just basically sat there and went, what? What happened? So I subbed him off at half time because he was ridiculous. For goodness sake. Anyway, that was just an aside. Yeah, we played you and we started really well. And the thing that I did, not because I was coming up against you or your side particularly, but because of what had happened to me against Portugal, is that originally I was playing Hlozek up top alongside Patrick Schick. With Cerny on the right-hand side providing some ammunition. Wasn't really working. Hlozek didn't really do much. I had a couple of other strikers in my squad, but I knew that he could play off the left-hand side as well, and maybe that's where he was going to be more dangerous because in my afternoon save, when I'm in my rolling in the aisles, I play those wide men and they do specific roles for me in the setup that I was using, and he seemed to match quite a lot of what I had on the left-hand side there. So I switched him over to the left-hand side. To be totally honest with you, Rich, for the entire evening that we played in the Zealand Invitational Euro 24, the game against you was the only time that my team actually played in the way that I thought they were going to play when I set them up in the system that they did. And it was for about 20 minutes. And then even that started to stutter after that point, really. But yeah, for those 20 minutes, it was really good.
Just unplayable. Like I couldn't stop you. I thought so to summarize, I was 3-0 down after 20 minutes, and it was just some absolutely sensational like wide play, like really, really good crossing, couple of back post headers in there. Just there was nothing I could do about it. There was absolutely nothing I could do. You know, you know, I had a flat back four. I had 2 defensive midfielders who were there to try and help out and support them. And, you know, we specifically set up you know, when I think that it's easier to defend play through the middle on FM24 than it is to defend crosses. So I specifically try and force the opposition inside.
Yeah.
Nothing worked.
No.
Nothing worked. I was 3-0 down after 20 minutes. I hadn't registered a shot. You'd had plenty, and 3 of them had gone in.
Yep.
Couple of good back post headers, and I was like, this has got cricket score potential, because there was no reason for it to stop. And we've all played games on FM where, you know, your team has started amazing, started really, really strongly, and then you're 3 or 4 goals up in the first half an hour or so. And then I've said it on stream before where that happens, you're like, this game's finishing 3 or 4. That's it now, we're done. And it does. And to an extent, that is kind of what happened with your Czech side, because you went 3-0 up. And then it just felt a little bit like, based on the highlights and based on the chances that we're seeing, it felt like they just stopped. They took their foot off the gas. Just stopped. Oh yeah, we're going to be fine now because they're not creating anything. We've scored 3 goals. This is going to be how this one ends. And then Turkey started playing. And I think if RDF had been in charge of Turkey during our fixture, I think he would have turned his PC off, because I think I hit the post 2, maybe 3 times. We scored late in the first half, and then we scored again early in the second. And I think from when you went 3-0 up, I don't think you had another shot on goal for the remainder of the game. And Turkey it wasn't, I didn't throw everything forwards because I knew that a 4th goal killed the game, but we attacked and we were creating chances, but we just couldn't find a way through. And I think the first game I played against Matt was a very flattering 3-0 win. I think from our game, with hindsight, I think a draw probably would have been a fair result. I'm very glad you beat me, because obviously we'll get onto that later and what it meant for the group. But I think a draw would have been a fair result. We just created chances, just couldn't finish them. And very much like you had people in your chat like, "Oh yeah, you're the Czech manager. That's where I'm from. I'm going to come support you." I had a couple of lads in from Turkey in my chat, and they said after all the games, they're like, "This is stereotypical Turkish football, because we'll create chances, and you've got all these wonderful midfielders, and you've got pace on the wings, but you haven't got a clinical goal scorer." And that was one of the things that I struggled with. 3-0 in the first game, very flattering. The other fixtures, we just give me a top tier goal scorer, not world class, just one of the better goal scorers. Somebody like a Patrick Schick would have been perfect for me. Doesn't have to be phenomenally good, just had to be good enough, just better than what we had. And I'd say with Turkey, you've got some good, high quality championship level strikers, I think is probably the best way of assessing it. And then you've got some absolutely phenomenal midfield options, like we said, like Kanahoglu and the lads like that will create chances for you. And you're going to be a threat from set pieces, because they're very, very good at them.
Yeah.
But then we played, and then that finished 3-2 to you.
Which was a bit nervy. I do have one thing I need to talk to you about, Rich. You
of course.
decked one of my players, mate. And he was out for 7 weeks. You absolute thugged you. Cerny on the right hand side, it was delivering all of these great balls across for the likes of Hlozek to get on the end of his stuff, was decked by Rich and his bunch of thugs. And that was his competition over with. So yeah, that kind of changed what I had to do after that one. So thanks, Rich.
Sorry, mate. Am I?
No.
Am I sorry in hindsight? It's hard to say, isn't it?
But yeah, we in the end, we hung on, having been 3-0 up, really, because that second half we did nothing, and you just kept clawing and clawing and clawing, but held on. We did just about.
Yeah, it felt like one of those. If that was like if you played that game offline, it feels like one of those ones. If you were like, I'm going to save and reload, because I don't think that was a fair score, you'd win that you'd comfortably win that fixture on another day. It felt that it could have gone either way, realistically speaking. But I'm not angry, because it was you, Kev. So I can live with that. I can absolutely live with that as a set of circumstances, which, in fairness, set the last group stage game up quite, because it made it interesting, because there were a lot of permutations on who could have gone through, who could have gone out, because I think Gav won his first 2. He beat you. He then beat Matt's Georgia. In a surprisingly close game, considering again on paper it looked like I beat Matt quite comfortably. On paper, if you'd watched the game, different story. But I think he took his he took that Georgia team, and he really had a go against Gav, which was, you would expect him to, because he's very good at Football Manager, his second yellow card. But Gav beat him in that one. So Gav had 6 points from a possible 6. Matt had 0, which means that he was already out of the competition. I played Gav in the last fixture. You played Matt. Now, in my head, I was like, I need to win to get through, because again, just showing my incredible footballing knowledge here, Kev, I didn't realise that there were additional spaces in the finals for best placed, third place teams.
Right.
So in my head, I was like, I really, really need to win this because Gav has pretty much already qualified.
Yep.
Come on now, let's give it a go.
Mm-hmm.
I was expecting to get, after what happened against you, I was expecting to get decked by Gav's team. I was expecting it again, cricket score. Humbled was where I was going with it.
Yeah.
Played surprisingly well. He scored one from a set piece, and it was an embarrassing set piece. One of those, I think, hit the bar, deflected off a player, and then the ball just fell to Cristiano Ronaldo, who just volleyed it into an open net, which, again, it goes back to the classic Kev theory. You don't get beaten by the big teams because they're better than you. You get one of those.
Yeah.
But we pulled one back, 1-1. And that's how ours finished. So I picked up a point. So I played 3, drew 1, lost 1, won 1. Put me on 4 points. We were very, very invested on the outcome of your game against Matt. We had always, both of us had one eye on the live table just because those permutations and what that could have meant for the group stage. How did your final group stage game go against the mighty Georgia?
So, of course, we didn't have Cerny on the right-hand side. Thanks, Rich, again. Appreciate that.
Yeah, anytime, mate. Anytime.
But who we brought in was a guy, again, one of these people, I don't know who he is. If I'm totally honest, just me being honest, I don't know everybody in world football, and he's one that I didn't know. A guy called Linger, Lingr, I believe his surname is spelt, and he came in on my right-hand side. Now, you and I talked a moment ago about how I set up my team to play, and the fact that in my normal save, I quite like the fact that I've got 2 wide men that have got a bit of height about them. They're both over 6 foot something on the wide areas. And that's what he is. And he came in and he played the same sort of way that I would expect my other wingers to play in my other saves on that right-hand side with Lozek on the left. The one player that I still got nothing out of was Patrick Schick in the middle. But the wide men took on the scoring mantle, did that again. And it was relatively simple, if I'm totally honest with you. Georgia, I probably felt a little bit like I did when I was up against Portugal, that if you stop one, you'll get the other. And either way, you're going to find it a bit of a struggle because they're both very good and they can cause you a problem. And they kind of did. And it was fairly simple, to be honest. I can't remember, was it 2-3? Can't remember what we scored in the end. But it was, there was never really a moment that I felt like we were in a lot of danger. And bless him, I think Matt kind of knew that quite early on in the game as well. So we just had a lovely chat about stuff whilst watching this happen and play out, really. But yeah, it never really caused me too much problems. I got the win that I needed ultimately, and knew that would then put me through, which is really good, into second spot in the group stage, of course, behind Portugal. But that, of course, left it slightly ambiguous as to about what happened to you then at that point, really.
Yeah. So I was at that point, I said, not really understanding or having a particularly brilliant knowledge of the format and who went through and who went out. As soon as you took the lead against Matt, I was like, well, that's it. That's my tournament done. I've had a lovely time. And that's the important. Wave to the camera while the credits roll. Bye, everybody. So I was, you know what? It is what it is. Nothing I can do about it. So I kind of made my peace with the fact that I was going out, and then started looking at the final group tables, and then I started seeing in my chat, no, I think you're going to go through because you've got that goal, that equalizer against Gav. That's got you through. I'm like, no, Kev's won. No, we're gonna one of the best placed third place teams. I was like, no, well, that's not a thing. That doesn't exist. It exists. It absolutely exists. And it was one of those things that happened. So I blagged my way through to the round of 16, which surprised me enormously. I looked at some of the teams that had made it through, and there weren't many that I was looking at, and I thought to myself, we've got that much of a chance against. So we'll see. Whatever happens, happens. We're here for a good time, not a long time.
Yeah.
So I got through to that round of 16, and the best possible opponent for me, a slightly underperforming Turkish team. I got tournament favourite and FM genius Tom FM and his England team. I was like, oh, good. Oh, goody gumdrops. This is going to be embarrassing. But again, my way of looking at it was, you know what? I'm going to get to spend a bit of time with Tom. And Tom's a lovely young man. Again, another wonderful podcast guest that we had on from the Rich and Tony days was Tom. I was like, what a guy. What an absolute treat it's going to be to spend some time in his company, which it was. Had a lovely old time. Again, I've got to say, I think in terms of, you know, because I think we have to look at it from very, very briefly. For somebody like me, who creates FM content, you know, I think there's levels to the game. And, you know, we got to spend some time, and there were some of the biggest football manager creators just on the planet in this competition. Obviously, the likes of Zealand and Malujo and Second Yellow Card and Tom FM. Some of the really, really, really big boys. You know, there was a little part of me that was like, it's me, Rich Owens, just smiling and waving, just happy to be here, having a lovely old time. But, you know, it's regardless of people's status or their reputation within the community, people are still human beings. And I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to enjoy talking to these people. And there was a part of me that thought, but just make your most of your time with some of the guys, because, you know, it's not every day we get to hang out and talk to them. You know, Matt and I just filled for 20 minutes. Just waiting for the first game to begin. Just 20 minutes of pure unadulterated filler, and it was lovely. We talked about monster trucks and extreme ironing and had a wonderful time. Of course
you did.
Obviously, we had a great time. Gavin Brash and I debated the finer points of the Air Bud film series and its subsequent sequels about sport playing dog. Which was a whole thing. And then when I played Tom in the last 16 of the Euros, I essentially tried to start a gambling syndicate with him. We went into huge amounts of detail over it. It's like, right, or because there's an accumulator. I've seen pictures of it going around online, and, you know, gamble responsibly, kids, and or not at all, and which is probably the better way of doing it. And there's a guy, and he's got an accumulator on for the Euros, and I think it's 12 or 13 countries. He's named who he thinks are going to be their top scorers.
Right.
And if he gets all 13 of them right, he's put a £10 bet on, Kev. And if he wins it, he comes away with, I think it's near enough £1.7 million, which seems like a lot of money. It is a lot. And part of me was thinking, for the sake of a tenner, maybe. Because a lot of them, you got like Harry Kane and Mbappe, like the absolute nailed-on favourites for some countries. Like, that doesn't make sense. And Tom and I were talking about, you know, he got the calculator out and he was doing the maths. And I was like, look, if we just got a 50 grand loan and put on, you know, 5,000 bets, surely one of them's going to come in. And then a lot of other people started doing maths. They're like, no, it's not. I'm like, shh. Chase the losses, Rich. Chase the losses. Got to commit. If you're really got to commit to it. And I was like, what a valuable use of my time. Sat down talking to Tom. It was, you know, and again, the football manager going on in the background almost seemed, you know, like it was the least important part of the company. You know, at least from my point of view, you know, I think Tom took it a bit more seriously because, you know, Tom drew England and Tom was probably one of the favourites to win the competition. You know, again, just because it's the way that these things sometimes go. Tom FM and Kev, other Kev, both in the competition. Tom gets England, Kev gets France. So again, two of the best of the best are, you know, in there with a shout. But I had a really lovely time playing Tom. The game finished 1-0 in the end. I think it finished 1-0.
Not bad.
I remember Jude Bellingham scoring from about 25 yards against me. And then I remember not really having many opportunities, which you wouldn't expect to happen because, again, he just set up very, very sensibly. And I think that just came down to a very rare FM event, Kev.
Yes.
I played a team that was significantly better than me.
Yes.
Jude Bellingham's goal was a very, very good goal. Like I say, it was a shot from about 25 yards. Very, very, very good shot. And, you know, a deserved goal.
Yeah.
But I didn't create very many chances at all. And that just came down to nothing more than it was a better team, set up very well, being managed by somebody who's very, very tactically astute. I was beaten because he was better than me.
Sure.
I wasn't beaten because my team fell apart and were terrible and he romped past me. And finished that game. I was like, you know what? That's absolutely fine. Wasn't necessarily expecting to win that fixture. Didn't get embarrassed, but I feel like that was an accurate representation of somebody just being outplayed, which is what I was. And I'm absolutely fine with it. Can't say fairer than that.
Sure.
but got to have a lovely time with Tom. And as I did with everybody else that I spoke to that night, which was lovely.
Awesome.
How about you, Kev? How was your round of 16 experience?
You and I were done dirty, Rich. We were absolutely done dirty. For goodness sake, out of the same group, you go and you play England in the first knockout stage, and I go and I get Lelujo and France. So, yeah. That wouldn't have been my ideal first knockout stage opponent, if I'm totally honest with you, for all number of reasons, not least the fact that Kev knows how to win an FM, doesn't he? Basically, he just wins stuff, and people can't always figure out how to stop him from doing so. So I attempted to try and stop him from doing so. It really didn't work. He won quite comfortably. I mean, it wasn't a whitewash or anything, but comfortable in the sense that my team just didn't do anything. They just didn't have a chance to do anything. And there were probably half a dozen extra highlights on top of the couple of 2 or 3 goals that he scored that he could have got another one from, and we couldn't cope. It's that scary moment where you think, okay, it's 11 v 11, Rich. They're just people. It's fine. We've got a chance. And then you watch Mbappe run and you think, that's unfair. It's just unfair. Yeah. And we just couldn't cope with him. Some aging legs around my squad went, no, I don't think so. Thank you. It's fine. And we never really got close to them. Again, it was that moment, though, you've got to make the most of spending some time with one of the guys in the upper echelons of our community, in the Lelujo. So I spent my time trying to be the sort of the upbeat, positive, chilled out kind of guy that I am, because I also know, and I don't think he would necessarily mind me saying, I don't think he finds those the most comfortable of situations to be in sometimes. No. That's just him and how he works and stuff.
Which is fair.
And so I attempted to try and be chatty and chirpy and all that stuff, and I've had some feedback from a couple of people saying that I managed that, so that's fine.
Yeah, which is lovely.
So I made the most of my moment. The El Kevico has happened. I would like to do it again at some point where the teams might be slightly better matched, maybe, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
It would be quite nice at some point, just for the sake of it. But again, lovely opportunity, lovely experience, lovely chat. Got to play in a tournament with a bunch of very, very good content creators and some very nice people along the way as well, and had a great time doing it. But yeah, at that point, the Czech Republic went out of the Euros, unfortunately, with a little bit of a whimper. Not that we created our own downfall too much, but we just could not cope with France, and they beat us and went through.
Which I think is fair enough, really, isn't it? At the end of the day,
yeah.
I think it's absolutely fair enough. I mean, realistic in terms of that save, that is the end of our story, but it wasn't the end of everybody's.
Indeed not. Indeed not.
The end of everybody's from the podcast, because if you remember, our friend, our colleague, Callum, was involved in this competition as well. And as we said earlier, he picked up Spain.
He did.
And what a competition Callum had. What a competition. He gave an absolutely incredible account of himself. Callum made it to the finals of the Euros, which was nothing short of incredible. And he did it by just being really good. I don't think you can't undersell that. Yes, he did have a very, very good team, because that Spanish team are ever so good.
Yep.
But my goodness gracious me, like, he played the game, and he played the game incredibly well. I mean, I think for me, he came up against Armstrong in the semi-finals.
Yeah.
I think Armstrong, I want to say Austria, I think is who Armstrong drew, who again on paper aren't the best team in the tournament. I'd say, probably slightly, probably on par with somebody like a Turkey, for example, but Armstrong is an incredibly astute PvP player when it comes to FM. He's always been very, very good. So regardless of who he had, he was going to be, the fact that he got to the semi-finals of that team, I think speaks volumes of how good he is. So Callum makes it past Armstrong, and then he just sets up a final against Tom's England, because Tom beat other Kev in the other semi-final.
Yep.
England France, which people would have that could have been the final easily.
Definitely.
Callum went all the way through to the final, a beaten finalist in the end, but what an evening!
Oh, it was amazing, wasn't
Callum.
it?
What an evening! Not only was he was wonderful. It was a classic why Callum stream. Because the only way you can describe it, he was engaging, he was fun. People were invested in Callum and his performances. And I recorded a podcast last night. Not this one.
Not this one, no.
Podcast last night. And I won't, due to timings and releases, I won't say too much more, but people can probably make educated guesses. Callum came up on the podcast last night. And we were also talking, because it was part of a wider conversation of people getting invested. There's nothing nicer than when people get your audience or your chat, if you're streaming, get invested in your content. Callum is the perfect personification of this, because not only I've got a Slough shirt on that rail behind me. It was a one night only save, and I was desperate for Callum to win that final.
Sure.
I was so invested in Callum going all the way and winning that final, because it's Callum and I love him and he's wonderful. And just, it was the competition ended up running for about 4.5 hours, I think, in the end. He's a busy man with a young family. And staying up late isn't always the best thing in the world. He has now officially joined the FM dads who have woken up their kids celebrating club, which I'm very, very proud of him for. That's why golf claps exist, Callum. That's exactly why the golf claps exist, because I've woken up babies before celebrating goals. But the fact that it was a 4-hour, one night only network game for the Euros, people were so invested in Callum and his Spanish team, and that speaks volumes as to just like who Callum is as a person, and why people get so involved in his content, why people are so invested in Callum doing well with his streams, because he's just such a likable person.
So, I mean, this is what we were alluding to a little bit earlier, though, Rich, in the sense of, okay, so late on a Wednesday evening, you get a message, not a phone call, a message, basically saying, do you want to come and play Football Manager with Zealand? And you go, yes, please, I would very much like to. Now, one of the reasons for that is purely because not many of these sorts of events actually happen these days, and actually they're interesting and fun to be part of, and it's unique and interesting. But you also just think, what if I get a chance to spend 20 minutes in the company of Zealand?
Yes.
And what could that potentially do to who I am as a streamer, as a content creator, sharing the same sort of space with him? Because, there's a certain element of probably Zealand's community don't really know too much about who I am or what I do, potentially. And that's for any of us, not me, any of us. So there's always that thought. And then you think, well, the same could be said for the likes of Tom FM or Second Yellow Card or Lelujo, or, the like, that have got a certain level of community and size of community. I mean, you can have an impact. What you really want, Rich, on an evening like this is that you want lightning in a bottle to happen by getting a decent side that you can make work, by being good at what you do, by by getting a little bit of luck here and there, but then ultimately by coming across a few of these people along the way to have some form of impact on what you do. So, for example, Callum is just really good at what he does. We know that. Even in the sense that it was ASMR Callum, because he had to be quite chilled and low key because of the baby sleeping and all that stuff. He still exudes a certain energy and type of charisma about being a streamer, which is amazing. So he's got that down, which is great. He got Spain, which, wasn't France or England. And those are the two teams that you would think are the favourites for it. But it's still a decent side that you can do something with. He goes through a few games with a few very cool content creators, gets a few conversations. He got the Lelujo raid, because he was the one left at the time, because Tom wasn't streaming and Callum was left in the final with Tom. So he got the Lelujo raid. He also then got an opportunity to be sort of semi-interviewed by Zealand on Zealand's channel, because Zealand was now out of the competition and was therefore covering the event from his perspective on everybody else. And those are the sorts of evenings you want. Very often, I come off of my live stream in the afternoon and my missus will immediately say, how did it go today? It's what you do. You ask each other how you know. And most of the time, I kind of say, it was a really good stream. I had a great time. It wasn't anything out of the ordinary, but there were lots of people chatting and we had a good time and the results were this and that's mostly what you get. Occasionally, you come off and go, it was amazing, because this happened or that happened or something unique was in the mix or whatever. And that's what happened to Callum. That's what happened to Callum the other night, which was brilliant to see. There was no sense of any of us sitting there going, darn it, it's Callum, why is it not me, and all that stuff. It was just Callum. It happened to him. The lightning in a bottle. He got all the things lined up that meant that his evening went in the direction that we kind of all hoped ours would go.
Yeah,
but it happened to him, and it was amazing to watch, because he got a little bit of the rub, and he got a few new follows on his YouTube and his on his streams as well, which was amazing. And his ability, his opportunity to express himself to a wider audience was there, and it was magnificent. And then mean old Poopy Tom beat him in the final, which was just unfortunate. But it was England and Tom, and they're both incredibly good. And fair play to him; he was excellent all
Ruined
evening
everything,
long with
didn't
it. Yeah. But it was close for Callum, wasn't it? It was close. But he won. He won because he participated. He said yes. He participated and he got lightning in a bottle for a few things to line up that meant that he got the optimum version of what that evening could be. And absolute fair play to him. And I hope that, you know, continues to propel him forward just in his own energy levels for what he wants to do and how he wants to do it about it ultimately, because you still can't control the audience and what they do really. But I hope it enables his energies to remain high on what he's doing, because it was brilliant and it was such a fun evening.
It really, really was. And I'm really proud of him. He was great. He was absolutely wonderful. I'd never say any of this to his face, by the way.
No. We're not going to say any of this to him at all.
No.
Nobody tell him at all.
Nor should we.
No.
Nor should we.
Because he won't listen to this. He's you know, too busy.
Absolutely not. Plus, he'd just be unbearable as well.
Totally would. Totally would.
Absolutely unbearable. But no, he was fantastic. It was a really, really lovely evening. And I think for me, one of the biggest takeaways was everybody had fun.
Yeah.
Everybody that took part in that competition had a lovely time.
Yeah.
And it was really refreshing just to see all the different streamers involved afterwards, just absolutely buzzing for, you know, for playing FM with friends again. You know, not everybody. And I think this is something that I think is quite easy to forget at the best of times. Not everybody is as lucky as we are, Kev, because I will maintain the best thing I've ever done on Football Manager is the network save with you and Jeb. It's one of my absolute favorite things in the world. Not everybody is lucky enough to have that. Not everybody. There'll be people that were playing on that Thursday night that might not have actually done anything collaborative with somebody else for a number of years at this point, number of FM cycles.
Sure.
So not everybody has got the network save like we have. So the thing for me was so nice to see all of these people. It's like, oh, that was so much fun. That was brilliant. I had such a great time. I was watching all those responses coming in. I was thinking to myself, this is fantastic. This is exactly like this couldn't be a better result for this evening, because that's what it should be. It was just people being reminded how much fun it is to play Football Manager online with their friends.
Yeah.
So the real winner was just the sense of community, camaraderie, like between you know, FM content creators. In a much more real sense, the winner was Tom, because he won the competition.
He kind of did.
Yeah, but it was brilliant. So thank you to Zealand for organising it. Thank you to thanks everyone for taking part. It was loads and loads of fun, and I would very much like to get involved in something like that again in the future.
Sure.
Loads and loads and loads of fun. So yeah, cheersy. Cheers.
Cheersy.
Yeah. Good times. Good times had by all. My goodness, That's taken an hour to talk about that. Which
There
has
was a
frightened
lot.
me.
It was an
A lot.
amazing occasion.
There was a lot to get through. And you know what? It's very, very rare that we
Mhm.
record one of these and I don't have one eye on the clock, just thinking to myself,
Mhm.
oh, how long have we been talking for? How long have we been talking for?
Sure.
That's the first time I've looked at that clock and I was not expecting it to say that, which just goes to show how much fun it's been.
Mhm.
Look, we had plans. We were gonna there was other
Oh,
stuff. We had other stuff
so
on the
much other
docket.
stuff.
So much other stuff.
Can't tell you how many other stuff. There was like 2 of
Millions, millions of thing. I think, in honest with you, look, because we did a few weeks ago, we set some
Mhm.
homework for old Rich about player instructions, and
Yes, we did.
I have been doing it,
He
but I
has.
feel that's part of a conversation for another time.
Yep.
If I'm honest with you, Kev.
Yep.
But I have been doing it, hand on heart. This isn't training. I've been having a proper crack at this. It's been good. It's been
Mhm.
good. So we'll talk about that another time.
Yeah.
But before we start to wrap up, there is something we do need to talk about. And it's
Mm.
something that, again, in a roundabout kind of way, involves a lot of the people that we've been talking about this evening.
True.
People like why Callum, for
Mhm.
example. Very specifically, why Callum. It's a very
Very
Callum-heavy episode,
very
isn't it? So he's
specific.
not here, but it is his birthday.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Callum. Kev, have you got much in your diary on the 27th of July? Are you busy
Yeah,
at all?
I'm busy, mate.
Okay, fair enough. What are you up to? Doing anything nice?
I'm going to Slough. I know it's weird.
Oh, okay.
Sorry that I couldn't be available for you. I'm going to Slough. I just feel the need to watch
Mhm.
some non-league friendly matches before the start of a new season, you know, and Slough is a
Absolutely.
good place to do that. It's, you know, it's
Mm.
quite well placed. I know where it is. I've been there
Mhm, mhm,
before.
mhm.
Actually, it's quite accessible for me and some
Okay.
of my needs. So I'm going to go to Slough. Sorry,
Oh,
Rich.
lovely.
What were you planning to do that I could have been part of?
It's such a shame because I was thinking on the 27th
Mm.
of July, I was going to go to Slough
Were you?
to go and watch a non-league game, pre-season friendly.
No.
So I mean, if you're going to be there,
Mm.
I'm going to be there.
Yep.
Callum's going to be there.
Is he?
I know, yeah, Callum's going to be there. There's a rumor going around Jeb's going to be there as well.
Don't be
The whole
daft.
the whole gang going to be there. That's
What are the
madness.
chances?
What are the chances?
They were
Do you know?
quite
Do you
high,
not?
weren't they? We have
Yeah,
talked
really
about
quite
this
high because we've been
before.
planning it for quite. It's been planned
Yeah,
for quite a
yeah.
while.
Okay, good.
Yeah. What I think would be really nice as well, what I think would be lovely is if you,
Mm,
the person listening to this or
you,
watching this, were there as well. You
specifically you.
specifically you for
No,
the
no,
audio listeners.
you.
Kev and
The
I
other one,
are
move to one side.
pointing at you. Yeah, not yeah.
You.
Yeah, you, not you. Oh God, never you. You though, you're allowed. You're in. You should come. Everybody should come because it's going to be loads and loads and loads of fun. A good
Yep.
look. We've spent an hour talking about how much fun it was playing Football Manager with
Mhm.
22 other people for a few hours on Thursday night.
Yep.
This is going to be that, but a million times better because it's going
million.
to be all those people that, you know, if you're somebody, if you create content and you want to hang out with other content creators, what a
Mhm.
wonderful opportunity. If you listen to this podcast, if you listen to this podcast, you think, oh, it'd be really good fun. Getting to have a chat with Kev or Rich or
Yep.
Jeb or Callum.
Yep. There'll
Please
be
do.
hugs aplenty.
Hugs galore.
You know,
If you want,
if you ask D-Boy plays nicely, he'll sign a selfie for you. So you know, because
Deal probably write you a song.
he probably will. Bring your guitar, D. Let's have
Bring your guitar,
a
D.
sing along.
Bring your guitar. If you do want to hug Kev, you will physically have to prise me off him.
That is
Like a
true. It
limpet.
becomes a bit awkward, chat, after a little while, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, to get in early, I would say.
Get in early doors for the hugs. It's going to be brilliant fun. It's going to be absolutely fantastic fun. I think the game kicks off at 1 p.m.
It does.
So if you have the capacity to make it to Slough Town, Arbor Park, 1 p.m., 27th of July, come watch a pre-season friendly at one of the most welcoming football clubs that I've
Definitely.
ever been to.
Yeah,
The people at Slough Town are absolutely superb, and I'm
Mm.
looking forward to getting to spend a bit more time in their company because they're lovely people, lovely
And
club.
there will be opportunity afterwards to have a beer somewhere or have some food somewhere or do something, you know. So we'll work on the details of that as we go. But I'm sure it won't just be watch a football match and then go home if you don't want it to be. You can stick around.
Oh, no,
and
absolutely.
join in.
There will be activities. There will be things going on. We did this last year. You know, a big group of us all went out for a curry after the game on the Saturday. You know, last time we made a weekend of it and we did 2 nights. This time we're only doing 1 because you know we're all a little bit older.
It was just too much last time.
It was too much. It was too much. You know, I was sat in a Weatherspoons after eating. You know, after 2 days of socializing and eating a big curry. Just sat in there nursing. I sat there nursing a pint of Guinness for 45 minutes, having a small existential crisis. And Jeb just kept asking me if I was okay. I'm like, no. I'm so full. I'm so tired. I want to go home. But no, it's brilliant fun. So yeah, please come and see us.
Yeah, absolutely.
On the 27th of July.
Please.
Love to see you. If we don't know, if you listen to this podcast and we don't know, like come and say, oh, hi, my name is so-and-so. I listen to FMT.
Yeah.
Come and see us. That would be amazing. We'd love
It's really important that you hear, everybody hears, we're not talking to anybody else. We are talking to you. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what connection to us you have. It doesn't matter if you're a streamer or a YouTuber or just a viewer or a listener of the podcast, and that's all it is that you are connected to. Any of you, all of you, we want everybody to come and say hi and just be part of our day just because. Why on earth not, for goodness sake? And if you are in any way nervy about doing that, social occasions, all that kind of stuff, I get it. I will feel the same. But if you and I are together, we will get through it together and it'll be fine.
Exactly.
So come and say hi. Absolutely.
Yes. Please, 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 please do that. That would be lovely. We would like nothing more. Superb. Good. Come and see us. Come say hi. We're nice. We're good people. Kev.
Yes, mate.
I don't know about you, mate, but that very much feels like a podcast to me.
It did. I mean, it was a very specific conversation about a very specific event, but ultimately it turned into something very podcasty, and I'm all here for it.
It really did, didn't it? It really did. Big old slice of podcast. I think that's probably where we'll wrap it up then, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that.
Good. Lovely stuff. Before we call it a day, though, Kev, if people would like to watch you making the Football Manager content, doing the streaming, being the wonderful person that you are, where could they find you doing those things?
Well, you can mostly find me 3 till 5 p.m. UK time every weekday afternoon over on Twitch at the United City FM. So come and join us over there. We are on our Rolling in the Isles, British Isles journey save and having a lovely time. That's where you can mostly find me. I suspect there'll probably be a network save evening this week at some point, but I'm not 100% sure when that will be because obviously Jeb's not here to completely rubber stamp that, but keep an eye out on it. But we'll hopefully get one of those in at some time. But also, just because they're not here, and Rich can advertise himself in a second, but go and check Callum out and go and check Jeb out on the streams, but also Callum's YouTube channel as well. He's putting a lot of hard work into the YouTube. Make sure you go and support that as much as you can, as well as his streams. But yeah, go and give all the love to those two as well. And what about yourself, Rich? What's the plan for your streaming week ahead?
Well, ideally, I'd very much like to do some network save this week, but if the opportunity isn't available to do so, then I'll be around on Monday and on Thursday for a bit more What's the Story Form of Glory. So,
awesome.
So yeah, very much looking forward to that. Twitch.tv/Rich Owens FM. Come and hang out, have a nice time. We
usually like a 7:30 start-ish in the evening. Something like that
it's normally about I try and go live between 7 and 8, depending on parental responsibility. That's the main factor behind the start times, if I'm completely honest with you. So yeah, come and hang out. We'll have a nice time managing Wolfsburg, living our best lives before inevitably moving to Portugal and upsetting Benfica. That's the plan.
Amazing.
It's a save based around now revenge, and
it is.
It's a powerful motivator.
We can fill everybody in as to why that is next time, maybe.
Absolutely, we can. Absolutely, we can. Kev, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Always a joy, my friend.
Absolutely is. And thank you, Kev, and thank you, audience, for listening, for watching, however you are consuming this podcast. We appreciate you enormously, and it's been lovely to spend a bit of time in your company. We hope you've enjoyed it. That wraps it up, I think, for another episode of Football Manager Therapy. We will see you on the next one. Take care. Love you lots. Bye-bye.
do it and
Yeah.